I'm joined now by candidate for governor in New Jersey, Mikie Sherrill. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So we have watched as governors across the country have seen what's happening in Texas right now. Obviously, where I am in California, Gavin Newsom has taken steps to neutralize this power grab that we're seeing at the hands of Greg Abbott and these Texas Republicans. But there are other weapons that Republicans have at their disposal that they're looking to wield, and that includes maps in Missouri and Indiana and Florida. And so, given the fact that you're running for governor of one of those states that could serve as a weapon for Democrats, obviously not in this election cycle, but if you win and Democrats continue to have a trifecta in New Jersey moving forward, how have you thought about the way in which, given what we're seeing in the national political environment, New Jersey could neutralize what's happening in terms of these power grabs in other states?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, as somebody who served this country my entire life, as I say, I've taken more oaths to the Constitution at this point than I can remember, both in the Navy as a federal prosecutor, now as a member of Congress. And this is completely unacceptable. And as a former military person, you immediately need to come up with a proactive strategy to fight this in the long term. And that's exactly what I'm doing. The idea of expanding state power, I think, is really important in this space to move into some of those vacuums that Trump has exploited so well. We need strong Democratic leadership at the governor's level, working in concert across the country so we can block and tackle and push back against these incursions as he's trying to really cheat the system because he's afraid his policies are so unpopular that he'll lose otherwise, which I believe as well. So really, he's trying to create this way of undermining the election process. And that's what we're all fighting. That's what's critically important here in New Jersey. And it's part of what I'm building here in this governor's campaign.
So would you be open to seeing how the maps could be redrawn in New Jersey if we get to a point where it's become so clear that the Republicans are not willing to allow any of the voters to actually choose their elected officials, but the other way around, and where they're creating environments where it's scientifically engineered so that Democrats are not capable of winning the House, given the way that they're kind of usurping power in these states?
I think we're going to respond with the full force and power that we have as state governors after the election to really fight back against all of these things, because you're exactly right. What I think Trump is looking to do is creating an unwinnable map. Is just going across the country and trying to create a system where he undermines what has been put in place to create fair elections or to create fair maps across the country. And in that case, we're going to have to use the power we have to fight back against that. And that includes, all of the tools we have to ensure we're standing up strongly, because I'll tell you, I take my oath to the Constitution seriously. I take my need to protect this democracy very seriously. When you take that oath, it's to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's what we're seeing right now. And that's how I will act as governor.
What would your message to other governors be on the Republican side who have been given these edicts by Donald Trump, like Greg Abbott, and those people, rather than kind of zealously guarding the autonomy that they have as governors of their respective states, instead just kowtowing to Trump at his every turn? He says that he's entitled to 5 seats. Greg Abbott says, "Sure, no problem. Here you go."
Yeah, that's not New Jersey, right? So, and that's exactly what my opponent's saying, is that he's going to do whatever Trump says. He was recently asked, where are the areas you disagree with Trump? He said he can't think of any. He said it's his job to support Trump. It's not. As governor of a state, it's not your job to support the president. It's your job to fight for the people of your state. So look,
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat, but I'm a New Jerseyan first. And I have and will fight anyone, including my own party, to serve the people of New Jersey. And that's what people deserve. And if you have a governor that is bending the knee to the president, I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, or other, if you have a governor that is just serving the president, not the people, that should be a real problem for you, and you should vote that person out.
On the issue of Jack Ciattarelli, who is the Republican candidate for governor in New Jersey, he recently decided to do some, I guess, rather awkward outreach to the Black community. Can I have your reaction to his new landing page that is Blacks Back Jack?
Yeah, he tries to go see everyone, but he doesn't put any money into his efforts in different communities across New Jersey, into getting out the vote in Black communities, for example. And then he also does things like the Blacks Back Jack. I just had outreach from a Black bishop in my community who said he was very offended by his statement that Black people should just go home and smoke cannabis and pretend it's all not happening or something. He says, there's quite a few statements that he's put out that are offensive to members of the community, offensive to me. So I think that people understand that the facade he tries to put on of being just kind of a guy next door who supports everyone is simply not true. His record shows it. He's raised taxes at every single level of government when he's in. He's continued to work to undermine women's reproductive health. He's worked to undermine many of the programs that we have to support opportunity in the state, and in fact backs the one big beautiful bill, which is destructive to so much of our state's economy.
Talk to me a little bit about energy prices and rate hikes in New Jersey, because obviously New Jersey, look, I grew up in New Jersey and I've lived in New Jersey for 18 years before I moved out west, but I still have, family and friends in the state, and I know that state is plagued with some of the highest energy prices in the country.
It is just so offensive because here's a total failure at almost every level. So we see a failure from the BPU, from FERC, from PSC&G, from JCP&L, from the administration, and then Donald Trump's passing this bill that's going to raise costs by hundreds of dollars. So again and again and again, there is a problem in the utilities market, and PJM is the grid operator who has totally screwed up the market and the grid. And that has all been put on the backs of families. So costs have gone up on families because of everyone's desire to just kick the can down the road, not address a complicated system, not address things that that they should have seen coming. So that's why on day one as governor, I'm announcing a state of emergency on utility costs and freezing rate hikes, because this should not all be put on the backs of families here in New Jersey.
On the broader political environment in New Jersey, we think of New Jersey as this liberal bastion, and in fact, this last election cycle betrayed the fact that it's actually much closer than I think a lot of Democrats are willing to give the state credit for. And so, given the creep that we're seeing right now, where Republicans are making inroads, where Donald Trump, of course, made inroads, how are you looking at that, at the broader political environment in New Jersey, and kind of stem the losses that Democrats are contending with?
So I don't think anybody thinks New Jerseyans are shy, right? We want a voice in the future. We want a seat at the table. Yeah. And I think what too many people in the state were feeling was the opposite was happening. They weren't being heard, their issues weren't being addressed, and now we see a huge affordability crisis. So we talked a little bit about the crisis in utility costs, but we have a crisis in home costs. In fact, home prices have gone up 50% in the last 5 years. Rents are skyrocketing, healthcare costs are skyrocketing. So everywhere people in my state turn, costs are going up. And that was something that Donald Trump said he was going to take care of. And I think a couple people took sort of a chance in thinking maybe he will address those key concerns. Unfortunately, everything he's done has raised costs on New Jerseyans. So whether it's this tariff regime, which is putting businesses out of business, it's leading to an employment crisis as many people are being fired because of it, whether it's the one big beautiful bill, which is attacking health insurance, and I think will lead to some hospitals closing again and again and again. He's attacking the people that he said he was going to help. And I think people here in New Jersey see that. And so that's why I'm running to say, look, I'm on the ground everywhere. I speak to thousands of people a week about just what's going on and how as governor I can address that. And I think that's why, we saw such, so many people coming forward and saying, yeah, I'm so glad to hear what you're doing about utility costs. I'm so glad to hear what you're doing about cutting through red tape and permitting so we can get moving on small businesses here in New Jersey. And again, I'm also so glad to hear that you are going to stand up against Donald Trump, because everything he stands for is contrary to how we move this state forward.
I have, as a Californian now, I mean, I've been here for 15 years, but I do have some beef with my home state, and that is that I've just seen that there's more production moving to New Jersey, and I think that there's like a Netflix studio that's opening up somewhere in Central Jersey. Is that going to be a focus of New Jersey's? I guess is bringing the entertainment industry into New Jersey going to be a focus of your administration?
Yeah, it's really exciting for us here. You should move back because there is so much going on in the production industry, and it makes perfect sense as we're the home of, where Thomas Edison invented so many different things that led to some of how we produce movies and entertainment, et cetera. So kind of bringing it back to its roots, I think, is really important in our state, and we have everything. And I was really thrilled because I was talking to one of my local colleges, Montclair State, and they're filming a movie, and they said it's all decked out with UCLA banners and stuff
Yeah.
because they're making a campus for one of the production sets. And I had to laugh because there's this old movie, Date Night, and it's where a couple goes from Jersey into the city and chaos ensues, and then they come back home at the end of it and they're out in their front lawn. And I was looking at that house and I'm like, there's no way that house is in New Jersey. And I Googled it, it was Pasadena. So I
Yeah.
love the reverse being true as
Yeah.
we're bringing these jobs back to Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts me as like somebody who zealously guards our industry. But look, I mean, it's one of the best industries in the world, and it makes sense that other states would come in, and we've seen Louisiana and New Mexico and New York and even Toronto and Vancouver and Atlanta come into this industry, and so I feel like if we're gonna share it with anybody, New Jersey at least is a place that has a special spot in my heart. And of course, Severance was shot in Homedale in Monmouth County.
Right,
So
in the old Bell Lab.
It's hard to be a hater. Okay, last question here, and this is another very important New Jersey question, but kind of along the same lines. Does Central Jersey exist? And there is a correct answer
yeah,
here.
there's such an argument, and you get me in trouble with everybody. There's no right answer, but I have been there, and I have spoken to people who say they're from Central Jersey, so I'm going to leave it at that.
That is a very diplomatic and unsatisfactory. I'm not satisfied with this. As a Central Jerseyan myself, that is, we'll work on your directness.
It'll please no one. It'll please no one. Which means I'm in the right space there.
That's right. All right. Well, Mikie Sherrill, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. For folks who are looking to help your campaign, what can they do?
They can go to mikiesherrill.com, and we would welcome the support. If you want to phone bank, if you want to text bank, if you want to come here and boots on the ground, knock on doors, that would be wonderful. If you want to get involved in our online brigade, that would be great too. So please, please, please reach out and hope to either see you here or see you online. And then, of course, we're always fundraising. So every dollar counts. A lot of our campaign is built on small grassroots donors, so that's always so helpful. Thanks so much.
I'll put that link right here on the screen and also in the post description. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.